كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. Last night's lesson, we continue to read Sifatul Salat al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with regards to recitation and with regards to the time of the actual salat coming in and the time in which the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu would establish the congregation with his awesome companions. We explained many issues pertaining to the recitation of the Quran and the organization and categorization of the Mus'haf al-Sharif with regards to the part of the Mus'haf which is called al-Mufassal. And we said that the Mufassal is divided into three subcategories: Tibal al-Mufassal, Awsat al-Mufassal, Qisar al-Mufassal. Long, medium, and short. And we also assigned a few more homework assignments that were branches of the previous homework assignments to research this more, read about it more. And we had just a little bit of information that was provided by Jahid and others, but it wasn't sufficient. It wasn't enough. Surely wasn't enough to satisfy someone's appetite that's really hungry for knowledge. Then we also mentioned some of the fawaid pertaining to the story of Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, that's taken from the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah. Mu'adh didn't narrate the hadith, Jabir narrated the hadith, talking about Mu'adh and him being the deputy of the Prophet ﷺ with regards to his local masjid and leading people in the prayer and making hardship and a difficulty upon the people, and him accusing another man of being a munafiq, and the Prophet ﷺ correcting him and disciplining him for that, and the benefits with regards to da'wah, with regards to tarbiyah, with regards to leadership, and the list goes on. Now, طيب, chapter 37, Sheikh Muhammad Fawad Abdul Baqi, Allah have mercy upon his soul, says, باب أمر الأئمة بتخفيف الصلاة في تمام. Obviously taking the chapter heading from Sahih Muslim, it says أمر الأئمة بتخفيف الصلاة في تمام. Says in the English translation, page 181, chapter 37, order for the Imam leading people in Salat prayer to be brief and perfect in Salat. The command for the Imams, all of the Imams, when they lead the people in the Salat, to do two things. Number one is to make the Salat brief and short. Number two is to make sure that the Salat is done perfectly. Obviously, there being two levels of perfection. The first is a standard level of perfection that's obligatory, that's mandatory, that everyone has to achieve. A basic standard. It's incomplete. This watch was not fully assembled. It cannot be sold. It's unsuitable to be what? To be sold. It's totally incomplete. It's missing this, it's missing that. It's what? It's not perfect. That's a basic level that Waltham has to what? Provide for its customers and clients. That is going to tick. Everybody understand this? And that is called what? Perfection. It keeps time. Now? And then we have another level of perfection. A higher grade, a higher standard that is not mandatory upon each and every single watchmaker or clockmaker, but it's only for Waltham. An exquisite, fine, antique piece of time. Everybody understand this? It has this feature and this higher grade, the finest of the fine material. Everybody understand this? And which a master craftsman makes it. And obviously the price is going to be far higher. And it's going to be luxurious. Everybody understand this? And both of these things are called what? Perfection. So the craftsman, the watchmaker, he says is perfect. He's Muslim, inshallah, says alhamdulillah is what? I've perfected it. You thought it was done 3 nights ago? That was nothing more than a prototype. That was nothing more than a rough draft. I stood up for 72 hours without sleep. What? Working on it day and night. It's now what? Perfect. It's flawless. There's nothing that anyone can come behind and do. But before those 3 nights, those 72 hours, the watch did what? And it ticked well. It kept good time. But the color, this material, this, we're going to brass, we're going to use gold, rolled gold. Everybody understand this? Well, how could that? Everybody got this or not? No. It's going to be snake skin, alligator skin, money green, teal green, this color, that color. Everybody understand this? He what? Perfected it. Everybody understand this? So there are 2 levels of what? Perfection. One is a level that's a standard. And the second is a level of what? Totally extra. Everybody understand this? The imams, they're to shorten the salat, not to make the salat burdensome upon the people, but at the same time the salat has to be what? Perfect. Meaning the longest khushu', the longest ruku', the most beautiful recitation. Every single sunnah act was done in the prayer. Is that what was meant? If we have doubt, then we haven't understood the metaphor of the watch or the clock. We have not understood what? If you have any shadow of a doubt, if you still have to ask yourself the question, we didn't get it clearly. Everybody understand this? The clock ticking is a level of what? Perfection. It's done. It's complete. And complete and perfect are oftentimes synonymous. Complete and perfect meaning what? It's reached the top. It's there. Tamam in Arabic. Everybody understand this? Tamam. Everybody got this or not? No. So the Imam leading the Salat with the most beautiful recitation. Every time the Prophet raised his hands, he did this extra act, supererogatory act. He said it 3 times. He said it 5 times. His back was perfectly, so on and so forth. That's what's meant by the chapter heading? No. But the chapter heading is meant that the Imams have to lead the Salat perfectly, meaning the basic standard has to be there, and it cannot be beneath the what? Basic standard. Everybody understand this? I bought the watch. I wound the watch. The watch does what? Ticks. It's supposed to keep time for 20 hours. It's mechanical. No battery, no quartz, no kinetic movement, no solar power. It's mechanical. So 20 hours after I wind it to the full extension of the spring, without overextending the spring, 20 hours later, the watch is still doing what? Tick, 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 strongly. And next day, 3rd day, 4th day, 5th day, for however long the watch is supposed to last. It's perfect. It's complete. And if it stops ticking after 10 hours or loses a minute, loses 3 minutes after 5 hours, then the watch is what? The clock is what? Incomplete. It's what? Incomplete. So the Imam, he didn't make ruku' properly because he wanted to shorten the salah. He didn't get a chance to say the necessary supplication because he wanted to what? Shorten the salah. He didn't get a chance to pronounce the Quran properly when reciting it because he wanted to what? Shorten the salah. Then it's not what? Tamam. The prayer is not what? Complete. It's not what? Everybody got this? But the Imam, he did exactly what the Prophet did. He did the extra steps, the supererogatory acts. His salah is perfected. Meaning like the what? Everybody got this? 2 different levels. Everybody understand this or not? Like a grade. You get a D. You've passed the exam. You passed the test. You went on. You passed the class. You're a successful student. A D is tamam. You've completed your what? Evaluation. You got a 65 on the exam. That's not the same as a what? 99. Everybody understand this? That's perfect. 100. You've completed your studies. Everybody understand the difference? So the basic standard is that it has to be at least a D. And it cannot go under a D. Everybody understand this? So salah cannot be made in a way in which is what? Ghayru tamam. Everybody clear on this or not? And this is applicable to any other aspect of fiqh. If you understand the qaida properly. It's applicable to any other aspect of Islamic jurisprudence. Hajj, marriage, buying and selling, any other aspect. Everybody understand this? When you make a ghusl, when you make wudu, a perfect wudu, a complete wudu. Everybody understand this? A complete wudu. Everybody clear on this or not? Let alone life. Hopefully everybody can understand this. Inshallah ta'ala. So that's the chapter heading. That the Imams, they have a command. Bismillah. The Imams themselves, they're not above the Sharia. They're not above legislation. They're not above reproach. one who's been made a leader, the advantages that he enjoys, they come with just as amount or just as many what? Responsibilities, if not more. Everybody clear on this? With just amount of responsibilities, if not what?
More.
If not more. Tayyib. So the imam has to make the salat short. And it should at the same time has to be what?
Perfect.
Complete. Khayran inshallah. So the imam has to concentrate in the salat. He has to what? Concentrate. Moving forward, hadith number 267. Now, in this command here, is it obligatory or is it just recommended? هل هذا الأمر على سبيل الوجوب والحتم أم على سبيل الندب والاستحباب? Is it mandatory for you to do this, or is it just recommended and preferred, in which I, the imam, have the ability to lead the salah how I want to? Or do I have to make it short and brief? No question about the second part of the chapter. The salah has to be what? Tamam. No option about that. But is it obligatory to make the salah short or in brief manner? Or is it recommended? Hadith number 267 says, Hadith Abi Mas'ud al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu قال جاء رجل إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله إني والله لا أتأخر عن صلاة الغداء من أجل فلان مما يطيل بنا فيها. قال فما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قط أشد غضبا في موعظة منه يومئذ. ثم قال يا أيها الناس إن منكم منافرين فأيكم ما صلى بالناس فليوجز فإن فيهم الكبير والضعيف وذا الحاجة. Narrated by Abu Mas'ud al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu. A man came to Allah's Messenger and said, "O Allah's Messenger, by Allah, I failed to attend the morning congregational prayer because so and so," and it says between parentheses, i.e. Mu'adh bin Jabal prolongs the prayer when he leads us for it. I had never seen the Prophet more furious and giving advice than he was on that day. He then said, "O people, some of you make others dislike good deeds, i.e. prayers. So whoever among you leads the people in salah, he should shorten it, make it brief, because among them there are the old, the weak, and the busy, needy, having some jobs to do." So Abu Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu narrates that a man who wasn't mentioned here, he came complaining what? To the Prophet, complaining to the messenger about the messenger's deputy. He says, "Inni wallahi la ta'akharu an salat al-ghada." He says, I intentionally what? Come late, or don't attend, etc. Tayyib? Because of what? Fulan leads the salat, so what?
No.
Hard, burdensome. Everybody clear on this? So the Prophet ﷺ, he became what? Angry. The narrator says, I never saw him what? More angry than that, more furious. And then he said, before he gave the ruling and the instruction, he gave a general principle that's applicable to any other aspect of Islam. And that is, don't run the people what? From good deeds. Don't push them. Call them, invite them. Don't what? Send them away. Salah, Hajj, Zakah, Ilm, following the Sunnah, seeking Ilm, anything. Don't what? Run them away, but what? Okay, that's not. He says that whenever you lead the Salah, be mindful of those who are what? Behind you. Falyujiz. Make the Salah what? In brief. That's the highlighting point from the Hadith. And that's a command. And that's lamul amr. It's a order. Falyujiz. Wal-aslu fil amr al-wujub. And the default ruling whenever we have something that's a commandment of the Prophet ﷺ is that the thing is until only proven to be just mustahab, recommended. And then the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, he gave the reasoning, the ta'lil. Why must you make the salat brief? Because you don't know the Quran, you can't recite the Quran, because you don't want to show off. No, he didn't say none of these things. He said because in the congregation are those who don't have the ability to stand and stay long. Those because of their old age. Those because of their what? Weak, injured, Huh? Those people who have the what?
Disabilities.
Disabilities tend to I gotta go to work. I gotta move my car. I have to go get on the train. I have to start working. I have to seek rizq. I'm going to school. This is a what? A reality. That's the wisdom behind not making salah what? In a lengthy manner. That's the highlighting point from the what? From the hadith. Everybody got this or not? That's the what? Highlighting point from the hadith. The hadith is just like hadith 266, similar to the story of Mu'adh, and it says here this is the exact same story, a different version of it. With regards to Mu'adh radiallahu anhu being fond of reciting the Quran a lot. And the Prophet ﷺ did not condone that. Everybody understand this? We also see just like hadith 266, that the Prophet did not mention Mu'adh by what? Name. Nor did the man who what? Complained. Same lesson from 2 what? 66. He did not mention his what? Name. If it's known, there's no need to what? Mention the name. Everybody understand this? Then the Prophet ﷺ, he did not what? Say the name. And he gave a general address. And a general what? Command. And this is tremendous prophetic wisdom. If you specifically address one person, then oftentimes it will just remain for one person. But you address a general problem, disease, and sickness, anyone who falls under it. And oftentimes you can do both at the same time. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Everybody understand this? It depends on how you speak though. Everybody turn this or not? It is tremendous prophetic wisdom and not making situations specific to one person or one place. When the Prophet ﷺ was asked about the seamen, those who were Abna al-Bahar, children of the sea, they like to travel a lot. They were merchants, they were warriors. They traveled in boats and they only had a little bit of fresh water. And he says, can we use the seawater for wudu? Can we make wudu with seawater? It's salty, has a different color. Can we use the seawater for wudu? The Prophet, they said, if we use the fresh water, we'll go thirsty. It's not enough. Our voyage is long. We only have a little bit of what? Fresh water. We'll go thirsty if we use it for wudu, for ghusl, for istinja. The Prophet, what did he say? He didn't say, yes, you can. He said, its water is pure and its dead is lawful. Because if you would have said, yes, you can use seawater for wudu, then they would have understood that it's only permissible to use it when what? Huh? So, it's only permissible in time of need and necessity. When it's a tight situation, then we can use the seawater. Because the reason it was clearly mentioned. It says, وَنَحْمِلُ مَعَنَا الْقَلِيلِ مِنَ الْمَاءِ. We only carry a little bit of fresh water. الْمَاء الْعَذْبِ. We only carry a little bit of fresh water with us. So that's the reason. If the Prophet would have just said yes, then it would have been restricted to what? The reasoning. You only make wudu from the sea if it's a little bit of fresh water. Rather, the Prophet gave a universal answer. The seawater is what? Pure. And on top of the seawater being pure for whatever you need to use it for, the fish, the dead game is also lawful to eat because you may come across that. You may run out of food. It may be a storm. You may have to take another route. And maybe 3 extra days and your food source runs out. Everybody understand this? Something happens on the ship. So this is from the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ, is to give the answer that was totally applicable. And not just what? One specific situation. As we see here in this hadith. Lead the salat in a brief manner. Lead the salat in a way in which you're mindful of the what? People who are behind you. Just like we explained last night. Hadith 267 also shows us the permissibility of complaining to the ruler. And that it does not go against Tawheed for a person to complain to another human being. As long as you're complaining about something that the human being has the ability to change. And obviously complaining should be done in moderation. It shouldn't be the default thing. But it's not necessarily obligatory or haram. You can't just say, make dua. That's what we just make dua. Just make dua. No, it's permissible to also what? Complain and take somebody up on their rights. Everybody understand this? He's a bad leader. Everybody clear on this? And I'm talking to someone who can remove him, change him, whatever the case may be. He's a bad teacher. My husband is abusive to me. That's what? It's permissible. And it's not to say, just make dua. Ukhti, malish, sabr. Allah is with the sabirin. Everybody understand this? That's not, we can see that's not what? It's not the prophetic way. Everybody clear on this? And this is what we do often, all of the time. Just make dua. That's it. Khalas. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to change. Just what? Just make dua. And if you do complain, then you're weak. If you do complain, you don't love Allah. Your iman is low. Why are you complaining to the human being? Sometimes you have to what? Complain. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Moving forward. Hadith also teaches us from the tarbiyah of da'wah the permissibility of becoming angry for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. And it is incorrect to say that the Prophet never became angry. The Prophet always smiled. He never frowned. He never was upset. That's what? That's incorrect. That's what? That's incorrect. Everybody understand this? That's what? It's wrong. An imam, or some people that say, Fulan, he's too emotional when he talks. Or your answer is emotional, or he's too emotional. And this answer is different. This person talks like that, and like this, and like that. It's academic, or scientific, or so on and so forth. That's also wrong 100%. Emotion is a good thing sometimes. Too much emotion is a problem. Just like too little emotion is also a problem. Someone give you a khutbah and they stand still like a robot. Like a zombie, just standing there. A zombie may move more than some khatibs. Who's listening? Who's paying attention? Whose heart's being affected? And he's just reading from a paper. That's not the khutbah in Islam. Everybody understand this? Nor should you be moving all over the place and jumping all over the place and throwing your hands and going crazy and just talking from your desires, what you think, how many ayat, how many hadith, what real fa'idah are you getting across in a khutbah? There has to be a what? A balance. The Prophet gave a khutbah and his eyes became what? Red. His voice became what? Loud. His anger became what? Full-fledged. كَأَنَّهُ مُنذِرُ جَيْشٍ, as he was warning the people from an attack. So there is a place for what? Emotion in the religion. Once more, the teacher, the khatib, the lecturer, the orator, there is a place for what? Emotion. But not too much. Emotion has to be blended with what? Ilm, science, with logic, with reason, with the ability to speak. It's like a dish. Too much salt, the food is bad. Not enough salt, the food is totally bland. Everybody understand this? Too much pepper. Some brothers may differ on me. Say, no, we don't agree on this point. But what many, too much hot, too much pepper, and it's what? Too spicy. No, not too spicy. You can't taste the food. I said, Allah Allah, Rahi. Stick to hadith, huh? I'll tell you. At the end of the day, we can agree on salt, Talib. Can we agree on that? Yeah. Tell you. Okay. Some people look at spice the same way as salt. Too much or too little. You cook the meat too long, it becomes too tender, and then it's what? Ugh. You don't cook it long enough, and it's like, ah. Everybody understand this? It's like what? You gotta do the sound effects, yeah. It's important. Everybody understand this? The meat has to be just what? Ah. The vegetable has to be crisp, but not too hard. Not too soggy. The cucumbers, you crack it, you bite it. Everybody understand this? It's just what? A balance. A what? A balance. And the moment you lose the balance, things go wrong. Too much emotion? No good. Too little emotion? No good. Too much information? You'll lose the people. Too little information? You'll produce a bunch of just people that just like to hear you talk, and that's it. Everybody understand this? It has to be a what? A blend. It doesn't have to be 50-50. However you figure it out. 80-20, 20% of this, 30% of that, 50% of this. However, that's a skill that you have to learn and develop through years of studying, of training, and of tutelage and experience. And this is why it's recommended for younger brothers to start speaking and learning how to talk and teach from an early age. Even if it is in a public forum, or it's this thing which you disrespect someone who's older than you or more qualified than you, or you should be focusing instead of talking and being a YouTube personality. That's true as well. However you get that training in the basement, in the attic, in the dojo, an older brother, you gotta what? MSA, how can that? You make those, you gotta hone that blade. It takes what? It takes years to develop that. Khayran, inshallah. Right. We also show the compassion of the Prophet ﷺ. We see the compassion of the Messenger of Allah. He was compassionate. I was even a violent, cruel, volatile leader. And he's talking about the weak. He's talking about the old. He's talking about the needy. Will someone who's cruel and vicious talk like that? They're weak. They deserve to die. That's the axiom of life. The strong survive and the weak what? Perish. That's what Caesar would have said. Or this leader or that leader. They would have what? Kill him. What use are they? Everybody understand this? That wasn't the Prophet ﷺ's methodology. So it's scientifically incorrect to say that about him. Everybody understands whether you're a Muslim or not. If you consider yourself to be a man or woman of science, then you're bound by what? Facts, science, ilm. Everybody clear on this or not? Moving forward. Hadith 268, Hadith Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qala, إذا صلى أحدكم للناس فليخفف فإن منهم الضعيف والسقيم والكبير وإذا صلى أحدكم لنفسه فليطول ما شاء. Narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, if any one of you leads the people in salat, and once again we have to what? Translate it. Prayer. He should shorten it. For amongst them are the weak, the sick, and the old. And if anyone among you offers salat alone, then he may prolong the prayer. Wow, what is this? You going to translate it every single time or what? Everybody understands how many times was salat mentioned in the translation? Listen carefully. It says, anyone leads the people in salat. That's one. Number two, it says, if anyone among you offers salat. Everybody clear on this? Listen carefully. And prayer is mentioned what? Listen carefully once more. It says, narrated Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if any one of you leads the people in salat, prayer, he should shorten it. For among them are the weak, the sick, and the old. And if anyone among you offers salat, prayer is not mentioned after that one, alone, then he may prolong the prayer as much as he wishes. Hadith 268 proves what Hadith 267 has proved, but with an additional fa'idah, and that is when you're by yourself, you can what? Do whatever you want to do. And some people of knowledge, they will say that the wisdom of praying by yourself also applies to praying, leading someone that you know doesn't mind, or they don't have somewhere to go, and they want to hear the recitation of the Quran, and it's not a problem, because the illah is one. You're praying by yourself, you know when you got to use the bathroom, you know when you're getting tired, you know when you're sleepy, you know when you have to do something, you know when you have a responsibility or a meeting. Everybody clear on this? And the same applies if the people, what? I know that the brothers, they don't mind. Everybody clear on this? Khairan, inshallah. Hadith 269, Hadith Anas radiallahu anhu, قال كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يجي الصلاة ويكملها. Narrated Anas radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ used to offer a short salat, prayer, in congregation, but used to offer it in a perfect manner, as we previously what? Explained about the wal-Marjan clock. Hadith 270, حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال ما صليت وراء إمام قط أخف الصلاة وأتم من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن كان لا يسمع بكاء الصبي فيخفف مخافة أن تفتن أمه. Narrated Anas bin Malik رضي الله عنه, I never prayed behind any imam a salat prayer lighter and more perfect than that behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he used to cut short the prayer. What else is he cutting short? Why do you have to mention that in between what? Either one or two things. Leave it in the translation or cut it short. And if you leave it in translation, it doesn't add or disturb anything from the original Arabic text. You put in parentheses slows down the fluidity of the what? Of the reading. Everybody clear on this? And it has no purpose. Everybody clear on this? If you're reading 270 hadiths of the book and you don't know the word salat yet, something that's seriously what? Everybody clear on this? Muslim or? Everybody got this? We can agree on this or not? He says he used to cut short the prayer whenever he heard the cries of a child, lest he should put the child's mother to trial. And we explained this hadith in the previous class last week as well, to show the same wisdoms of the previous hadiths and the compassion of the Prophet ﷺ. And how could be a womanizer, and he was afraid for a woman to go through a trial because of her what? Her child. Great leaders, military leaders, womanizers of history, they slaughtered children, killed them, cut them out their mother's wounds. Everybody understand this? So how can you say that about Muhammad? That just doesn't make what? Doesn't make sense what you're saying. Moving forward, hadith number 271. حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إني لا أدخل في الصلاة وأنا أريد إطالتها فأسمع بكاء الصبي فأتجوز في صلاتي مما أعلم من شدة وجد أمه من بكائه. Narrated Anas bin Malik رضي الله عنه, the Prophet ﷺ said, when I start as-salat, the prayer, everybody with me? I intend to prolong it, But on hearing the cries of a child, I cut short my salat because I know that the cries of the child will incite its mother's passions. Like we previously what? Explained before from the sharh of An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala. طيب. Chapter number 38, author says, Babu i'tidal arkan as-salah wa takhfifiha fi tamamin. Chapter 38 says to be moderate in the different postures of salat and their shortening and perfection. Like we previously explained, ikhwan, but it's a bit different here. It's not necessarily pertaining to the recitation. طيب, moving to the sharh of Nawawi. We have several fiqh issues of the previous chapter and of this one as well. طيب. An-Nawawi rahimahullah, he says, معنى أحاديث الباب ظاهر والأمر للإمام بتخفيف الصلاة بحيث لا يخل بسنتها ومقاصدها وأنه إذا صلى لنفسه طول ما شاء في الأركان التي تحتمل التطويل وهي القيام والركوع والسجود والتشهد دون الاعتدال والجلوس بين السجدتين والله أعلم. He says all of these hadiths, the hadith in the chapter, are clear, plain and clear. And that is for the imam to shorten the salah, to be brief in the salah, without violating the acts of the salah and the aims and objectives of the salah. And then whenever he prays by himself, he can do whatever he wants to do with regards to elongation and prolonging in the places in which it's permissible, in the places in which it's from the sunnah to prolong. Everybody clear on this? Which are, number one, standing, qiyam. Stand up for a very long time. Reciting one rak'ah, al-Baqarah, an-Nisa. Everybody clear on this? Ash-Shu'ara, for example, mathalan. He says, and ruku'. Subhana Rabbil Azim, Subhana Rabbil Azim, in the ruku' for a long time. He says sujood, actually in prostration. And a tashahhud. He says not al-i'tidal, when you come out of a position. That's not correct. To take a really, really, really long time in your movement coming and standing straight up out of a position. As far as the i'tidal from ruku', there's hadith Anas regarding that in the Sahih. That the Prophet stood up for a long time after he made ruku'. Until someone said, qad nasi, he forgot. He says, and also sitting between the sajdatain. Sitting between the what? Sajdatain. It's not something in which you're sitting for a very, very, very long time. It doesn't mean that you have to just sit there and bounce right back now. Everybody understand this? But not to make the jilsa bayna sajdatain like what? Qiyam. Everybody clear on this? Sujood, different what? Different story. Everybody, are we clear on this or not? No. You guys looking at me like you got glazed eyes. Everybody with me or not? Everybody understand this? Even if it's the first time you're hearing some of this or some of these intricate details, you have to what? You got to accept it. Let it in. Tayyib, inshallah. Shaykh Khan, you got to what? Let it in. No matter how many years you've been making salat, how many classes you've been, how many books you read on salat, you got to what? Accept the disciplism. Everybody understand this or not? Tayyib? I know it may be a little what? Difficult from time to time, but you got to what? You got to accept it. You got me, Shaykh? You got to what? Let it flow in. Tayyib, inshallah. Okay. So, it doesn't mean that a person can't sit there for a little bit of time, but it should be a thing which is like the what? Everybody clear on this? Khayran, inshallah. Moving forward. He then says, فيه جواز التأخر عن صلاة الجماعة إذا علم من عادة الإمام التطويل الكثير. The hadith that we read tonight, Abu Mas'ud al-Badri radiallahu anhu narrated. Naam. The first chapter 37. Tayyib. He says here regarding this hadith, when he says inni la ata'akharu, he says I failed to make the jama'ah, and that's not necessarily the best translation. Rather, that's misleading, because when he says I failed to make the jama'ah, the first thing you understand is that he what? He can't catch it, and you think that it's too short. But in actuality, he's saying what? I stay away from it. And there's a world of a what? Difference between the two. Like how many times we said it before? Just that one cliche, mufti cliche. A word of what? Word of difference between the two. I fell, I tried, but I what? Or I what? That's a difference. He says this part of hadith shows the permissibility of staying away from the jama'ah if a person knows that the imam normally what? Does this. Al-tatweel al-kathir. Very, very, very long salah. Everybody understand this? And not just a little bit, or he's just a bit long-winded. Yeah, everybody understand this? He says here, وفي جواز ذكر الإنسان بهذا ونحوه في معرض الشكوى والاستفتاء. And there's also the permissibility. He says ذكر الإنسان بهذا is mentioning something about someone and saying something about someone when there's a complaint and when there's a seeking of fatwa. When there's a complaint and seeking of what? Fatwa. If you have to mention his name, then you what? Mention his name. If you don't have to mention his name, then what? But I'm saying it about someone, even if you know that it's who it is. It's a brother in the masjid, and he helps, so on and so forth. Da, da, da. You talking about Salih? He said, I'm not going to mention the brother's name. We all know the oppressive brother. Everybody understand this? Everybody got this or not? Tell you. He says, also, when he says, فَمَا رَأَيْتَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ, I never saw the Prophet more furious. He says, الْحَدِيث فِيهِ الْغَضَبُ لِمَا يُنْكَرُ مِنْ أُمُورِ الدِّينِ وَالْغَضَبُ فِي الْمَوْعِظَةِ. As we said, the permissibility of getting angry for the religion and getting angry when there is a what? A maw'idhah. When there is some type of exhortation, you're admonishing the people. The permissibility of using what? Emotion. That we said initially anger. And from that we make qiyas, we make an analogy, a systematic analogy of any other type of what? Emotion. Like the Prophet ﷺ told not to make a judgment when someone is ghadban. Someone is what? Angry. And the ulama of Islam, they extract from that anything else that's what? An emotional cloud. And the same applies to the maw'idhah, using a bit of happiness. Everybody understand this? Smiling, making a respectable joke. Not turning the class or the lecture into just a comedy stage. They say LOL shake. Everybody understand this? It's permissible from time to time to what? Smile at your brother. Everybody understand this? To make a appropriate joke. Huh? Any other type of what? Emotion. Sad. To show that you're sad at certain questions. Or certain brothers, they won't exert themselves how they should. And you get what? Angry. Become sad or you become angry. Anger is, that's nas, that's text. That's what? We have actual text for that. We're making an analogy to qiyas off of the what? Text. Anger and anything else that is pertaining to a type of what? Emotion. Everybody clear on this? Khairan inshallah ta'ala. Tayyib. Hopefully that's clear, bi'idhnillah. And there are many other fawaid as well. Moving forward to chapter 38. It says, باب اعتدال أركان الصلاة وتخفيفها في تمام. With regards to the positions and the postures. In the previous chapter or chapters, we're talking about what? Recitation. Recitation. And not necessarily postures. Hadith 272. حديث البراء رضي الله عنه قال كان ركوع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وسجوده وبين السجدتين وإذا رفع رأسه من الركوع ما خلا القيام والقعود قريبا من السواء. Narrated al-Bara رضي الله عنه. In salat, prayers, the bowing, the prostration, the sitting in between the two prostrations and the standing after the two prostrations and the standing after the bowing of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, but not qiyam, standing in salat, and qu'ud, sitting in salat, used to be approximately equal in duration. What's important is, there's a lot in the translation. It says that the Prophet ﷺ's ruku', his sujood, and when he was between the two sajdas, and when he raised his head from ruku', was similar, equal, with exceptions to the qiyam and the qu'ud. Hadith 273. Hadith Anas رضي الله عنه قال إني لا آل أن أصلي بكم كما رأيت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي بنا. قال ثابت راوي هذا الحديث كان أنس يصنع شيئا لم أركم تصنعونه. كان إذا رفع رأسه من الركوع قام حتى يقول القائل قد نسي وبين السجدتين حتى يقول القائل قد نسي. Narrated Anas radiallahu anhu, I will leave no stone unturned and making you offer salat prayer as I have seen the Prophet ﷺ making us offer it. The sub-narrator, whose name is Thabit, he said, Anas used to do a thing which I have not seen you doing. He used to stand after the bowing for such a long time that one would think that he had what? Forgotten the prostrations. And he used to sit in between the prostrations so long that one would think that he had what? Forgotten. Khayr, inshallah, the hadith shows what we previously explained with regards to the positions and making them completely and perfectly, and occasionally making them what? Long. And there's no contradiction. The Prophet said, make the salat brief. The Prophet's prayer was what? Brief. This narration, or these two narrations, show that it's what? Or specifically the hadith of Anas shows what? Long. That the person said he what? He forgot. That's a long time. To prove that the asl is to make it what? Short. From time to time, period to period, place to place, make it what? Long. Everyone understand this? And there are benefits in performing the act of ibadah and all of the ways in which it was legislated. From the greatest of the benefits, as we explained in the 5 minutes of Fa'idah, so many styles, from the Kalam of Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen, is that it gets the people to wake up and not to just look at it a normal, monotonous practice. He did something different. People pay attention. Every single time the adhan is the same way, the khutbah is the same way, the salah is the same way. The people, they lose their sensitivity. They're not. But you do something different, you switch it up. They say, oh, okay. It gets them to what? Focus and concentrate. Let alone teach them about the sunnah. And there's several different ways. So, so many what? Styles. Right? I got this or not? You with me now, Abdul Qawi?
Dunkin' Donuts.
That's right. Dunkin' Donuts in Medina. You get a point for that one, Talib. Don't remind me, huh? You definitely got to get something for that. I sent her. Tell you, everybody got this or not? And there's tremendous wisdom in what? In mixing up your what?
Styles.
Your styles. Khayran inshallah. Tell you. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding these narrations, طيب. He says here, فيه دليل على تخفيف القراءة والتشهد وإطالة الطمأنينة في الركوع والسجود وفي الاعتدال عن الركوع وعن السجود ونحو هذا قول أنس في الحديث الثاني بعده ما صليت خلف إلى آخره. What we previously mentioned before, now about the positions, about the length and the fiqh with regards to that. Now, what's important is, maybe we'll stop with this, is the narration of Anas shows us something. Several fawaid. The first fawaid is what? It just shows us not the Prophet's actions now, it's Anas's actions, but it shows us that sometimes a scholar, a learned man, a learned woman can, should, and must praise him or herself. Sometimes the learned person can, is allowed to, should, and other cases what? Must praise themselves for the purpose of teaching and instructing. And it says, Inni la alu. He says, I'm going to do everything that I have to do. I'm going to give you what I know, Muhammad's prayer. And the other narrations in which we read, Inni la ashbahukum salatan. I have the greatest resemblance of the Prophet's prayer. Now, we explained this. In order to stifle and to silence somebody sometime. They're different, they're fighting. I said, listen. I'm sorry, but what? Step out of the way. I got this. As Abdul Qawi would say. Everybody understands how what? I got this. Or let me teach you. Let me show you how it's done. And not as a means of what? Tooting my own horn, patting myself on the back. but to show the person, especially if you have a student who has a what?
Full cup.
Full cup. He just won't be quiet. Everybody understand this? Sometimes you have to tell him, like, listen, Yahi. The other brothers may use other instruments. Surgeons among us. Everybody clear on this? Sometimes you gotta what? You gotta tell them, listen, you don't know anything. I do. Just listen to me, and inshallah we'll all get along. Everybody understand this? Or it may be an issue in which no one knows, and people don't know what to do, and they're looking for somebody, and you have to say what? I got this, as Dr. Kobe said. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? We explained that before. Also, it shows us the permissible. No, this is not the Prophet's actions. The concept of what? Offering knowledge, and also passing on the Sunnah. It's from the way of the Salaf al-Salih, to pass on the Sunnah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the way of the Salaf al-Salih, as we've explained in countless classes, was nothing what? Nothing more than what? Muhammad's Sunnah. That's the thing which distinguished them. The Muslims were going towards this understanding, this philosophy, this practice. They remained what? Upon? We explained this, and this is crucially important in 2017. The madhab al-salaf is nothing exotic. There's no such thing as organic food when all of the food is what? The animal is raised on a farm. It's hand slaughtered. There's no preservatives, no genetically modified issue. Everything is what? It's just called what now? Food. And the only reason why it's called organic in light of GMO and this and that. Then they have to make a distinction. Everybody understand this? There's no need to say fair trade. These mango slices, fair trade. This coffee is what? Fair trade. Except because of unfair trade that's unfair. But back in the day when it was hand to hand, bushel to bushel, box to box, it was all what? There's no such thing as saying what? Fair trade. Everybody understand this? So many people today, they think that organic food is something what? Special and fancy and exotic. Everybody understand this? The way of the Salaf al-Salih was nothing more to do what? Hold fast to the organic teachings of Islam, as it's understood in the pure Arabic language, as it's understood in the clear principles of the deen, of understanding, of extracting, and that's it. Ilm al-Kalam, this madhab, this person's ra'i, they say what? No, that's GM what? That's GMO. Ilm al-Kalam is what? GMO. The Ash'ari way, this method, that's what? GMO. The organic food is what? Allah Azza wa Jal has this name and He has that attribute, as He has clearly told us in the Kitab and in the Sunnah, as is understood in the Arabic language. So that's the way of the Salaf al-Salih, is to hold fast to what's pure. So Anas radiallahu anhu, he said, I'm going to teach you what? My understanding of the Salat. I'm going to give you my interpretation because I'm from the Salaf. He said, I'm going to give you nothing more than what? When the people became far from the true prophetic way. Everybody clear on this or not? And we said this is crucial in understanding Islam. Everybody clear on this? In the confusion of the different groups who all claim. They all what? Claim. Moving forward. This hadith also shows us something very scary. And that is how knowledge can become lost and scarce, and acts of the Sunnah can be abandoned even among virtuous people. This hadith, when is it being mentioned? In the time of when? The 4th century, the 5th century, when the Bid'ah had come in Iraq, when the Ottoman Empire was destroyed. What is this hadith? What is the historical context of this hadith? Talking about the Salaf al-Salih. And he's saying, Thabit, the narrator from Anas says, I'm seeing you do, so Anas, something that you what? Didn't do. And he's talking to the who? The Tabi'een. He's not talking to Sahaba. No. Anas radiallahu anhu was from the last of the Sahaba to die. He wasn't the last companion to die, but he was what from? Someone say he was the last companion to die in Basra. Anas was young. He was very young. He was a servant of the Prophet ﷺ. He wasn't like Abu Bakr and Umar. He was very, very young. So he lived for a while. Everybody understand this? So Thabit, the narrator from Anas, Thabit ibn Aslam al-Bunani, he's from the Tabi'een, from the strongest disciples of Anas. He's speaking to who? Tabi'een. He's not speaking to Sahaba. So among the Tabi'een, the son of a Salih, he's saying that there's something from the Sunnah that's what? Have I heard this? Let alone in New York City in what? 2018. Everybody understand this? So this goes to show you some masjids or some people, some brothers, they'll say he's a deviant. They're not doing this. It's a masjid of bid'ah. Because they're not doing this act from the recommended acts of the prayer. Does that go with this hadith? Not at all. And there are other narrations you read. Hassan al-Basri said, the only thing I recognize from the salah is this. The only thing that I've seen from the old way is what? Is that. There are many narrations that are scary like this. Let alone what? In 2018. Which, how do we pray? How do we make our ibadah? Who are we following? It's unfortunate. Huh? So, Allahumma musta'an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sure knows best. This hadith shows us that Anas radiallahu anhu was narrating the permissibility and the recommendation of extending and prolonging these positions, what? In the salah. From time to time, there's no contradiction between this and between the what? The other narrations. Everybody understand this is no what? No contradiction. This is done sometime and that's what? Done other times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sure knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan. As far as tomorrow's class, they won't have to make an announcement whether the class will be after Maghrib, after Isha, or whether the class will be deferred and postponed, or whether the class will be continued tomorrow, but it won't be Q&A. Perhaps we'll do wal-Marjan again tomorrow. Perhaps we'll do Bulugh al-Maram, and maybe we'll do the Q&A session on Friday night. Inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. What's important is stay tuned. That's all that's important. The brothers, they say, how do I find the videos? Please title the videos. It makes it easy for people to search. You don't need to what? Search. You don't need no announcements. You don't need no clarifications. All you have to do is just do what? That's it. Just watch it. Everybody understand this? Just what? Watch it. Search and you will what? You'll find the gems. Everybody understand this? But you gotta what? You gotta search. Treasure what? Hunt. You gotta what? You gotta what? You gotta search. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala